guys. Welcome back to Movie Sim Podcast. I'm Summer,
And I'm Lynn.
and today's episode, we're going to be talking about holidays and traditions. We thought this would be a fun episode to do during the holiday season, and since New Year's is coming up, we just thought it would be appropriate to talk about some of our favorite holidays and traditions that we've participated in. Not necessarily all of them, because there are too many to talk about.
Yeah, so we're just going to go a little bit into some of the holiday traditions we celebrate with our families on both sides, which I think will be a pretty cool insight since I feel like a lot of mixed people, sometimes they don't get to celebrate both, especially depending on where they live or if they're closer to one side or another. So I think it's really cool to have more than just one set of holidays. So I think we're going to go starting from the beginning of the, universal calendar year in January.
Yeah, so we're gonna start off with, or I guess I'm gonna start off with the Japanese New Year. In Japanese, it's called Oshogatsu. And basically, the way me and my family celebrated it, we would just wake up, we would eat mochi, which is like this sticky rice cake, basically. A lot of you probably know it from like mochi ice cream. It's become popular here in the United States. But yeah, so we would just eat mochi, which like brings good fortune basically. And then we would also eat soba, which is supposed to bring like longevity, so like a long life. And soba, that's like a noodle, it's like a buckwheat noodle. It doesn't sound good, but it's actually pretty good. And sometimes when I was growing up, we would put the mochi in like this broth that was similar to miso soup, but I hated that. I didn't think it was delicious. So I would never really like to eat that. So I don't eat that anymore. um, but yeah, so it's very, to our family anyway, it's very important you eat mochi and you eat soba. And also, I just found out like recently that my grandfather would also eat sushi. That's also a very common thing. I didn't even know that because we never did it because we're not super big sushi fans, but yeah, that's like another thing a lot of people do apparently is they eat sushi on New Year's Day. And a thing that my grandparents would do, or a lot of grandparents would do, they would give you, it's called a toshidama, which is like this money that you would give to children. And so it's like for the new year. And it was very kind of them to do that. I don't know. I guess I never really understood it as a kid, but it's just like a Japanese tradition that people do on New Year's. And also on New Year's Day, we would go visit a Buddhist temple and we would do our first prayer of the year. We're not very religious people, and it's not, I never viewed it as religious. I viewed it more as like a cultural thing, and I think a lot of people do in Japan, but I could be wrong. But yeah, that was a big part of our New Year's. And I haven't been able to do that because I've been living in the United States for a long time. And then one more thing I wanted to mention about New Year's in Japan is we send like postcards to each other. It's like how people send Christmas cards during like the Christmas season to other people. So you just like wish them a happy new year and stuff like that. They're very beautiful. I don't know how to describe it, but I'll probably link a photo in like our description or something. But they're very beautiful. They're like usually white with like a nice red and gold bow on them.
Yeah, the cards sound really nice. Like I'd love to get a postcard at New Year wishing me stuff. That's pretty cute. I actually had a question about the soba because I've never actually eaten soba. Like I know like people generally eat it.
It's not only for New Year's, just FYI. I'm sure people are probably confused about that. No, it's like you can eat it like all year round, but it's just like mochi. You can eat that all year round too. It's just like something we would have to eat on New Year's Day. But yeah, at least my family, we would eat it hot because it's also cold during New Year's. So I guess you could eat a cold noodle if you wanted. But so we would just eat it hot and like dip it in this. I think we would dip it in like soba or somen sauce. Somen is just another type of noodle that we eat as well.
That's pretty cool. There was another thing I wanted to say that you mentioned. I think that it was you guys aren't religious, but I think that has to do with a lot of cultural holidays in Asia. Like they started out religious a really long time ago, but then just over time, they just become kind of a cultural thing. So it's not really tied to religion as much anymore. Kind of similar, I guess, how like Christmas and Easter are here. Like people do Easter things and Christmas things, even if they're not Christian.
Yeah, I think it's probably across like a lot of different societies. It just like cultural and religion just kind of mesh together eventually, like over time, and not everything and not for everyone, but some things, and for some people, it just becomes a part of the culture instead of just being religion. And there's like a lot of holidays like that in Japan. And like New Year's is probably a great example of that because of like going to the Buddhist temple and stuff. Buddhism was never pushed upon me, it was just a thing we did. Sorry, guys, I'm going on like a monologue, but the next holiday I wanted to talk about in Japan is called Coming of Age Day, which is also known as Seijin no Hi, or the ceremony itself is called Seijin Shiki. Basically, I think they changed the age that you can vote in Japan to 18 for the longest time. And for me, it was the age of 20 or hatachi. That's 20 in Japanese. And so when you become 20, you come of age, you become an adult, right? And there's like this special ceremony in like local prefectures or towns, I guess. And you just go to like the community center, wherever it's held, and there's like this special ceremony that you get to attend. And that's also in early January or sometime mid January, something like that. I never got to go because when I turned 20, I was living in America and I didn't have the time to go to Japan because I was in college at the time and my college was starting back up around that time. So I didn't get to go to one, which is a bummer, but it is what it is. But I did get to take Seijin Shiki photos, so like coming of age photos. They're like on my Facebook and stuff. You could probably Google them. A lot of women dress up in kimonos. I think men do too. I'm not sure, to be honest, but it's just very beautiful. Everyone gets very dressed up in traditional Japanese clothing. It's very pretty to see. Yeah, it's really nice. And I'm sure the ceremony is very nice as well. I just don't know a lot about it because I didn't get to go to one. But obviously, this year or this upcoming year, they are not going to be able to hold one because of the pandemic. So my cousin, who just turned 20, he's not going to be able to go to his Seijin Shiki, but that's all right. He'll be fine. I didn't get to go either, so he's gonna be aight. But yeah, it's very cool. It's very beautiful.
That sounds pretty cool. I don't think I have seen anything like that for like Vietnamese culture. I think probably the closest thing people like equate to that importance is graduation. And it's been pretty popular recently. I've seen a lot of people online, and I did this too. For my graduation ceremony, I actually wore traditional Vietnamese clothing under my gown. Always an excuse to dress up. For the next holiday I want to talk about on my side is Lunar New Year. So a lot of people colloquially call it Chinese New Year, but I think that's generally going out of fashion since more than just Chinese culture celebrates it. That usually happens, I want to say, between mid January and mid February. It's a really big deal, actually. This is the one holiday we really, really celebrate and we get together for. So we have like special food. So the New Year in Vietnamese is called Tết. So the thing we eat is called Bánh Tết, and it's basically like fried sticky rice with meat in the middle. And it's literally so addictive. And that's all I want to eat during those like 2 weeks, even though it's so bad for you. But it's so good. And it has mung bean and meat, and then the outside is sticky rice that you fry in a pan. We usually get together every year with our grandparents. So I have a lot of cousins, and we all get together at our grandparents' house. When we were younger, they would give us the red envelopes with money in them. So we call them lisi. Usually the amounts inside were not that much because there were so many of us. So some people get like a lot of money, but I think getting $10 in one was like a lot, especially because there were so many of us. And I remember
Mm.
some of my older cousins telling me that they were really upset when my kind of little group was born because we kind of have like three-ish sections of cousins, I guess is how I would describe it, where like some now they've hit 30 or are approaching 30 or a little bit older than 30, that kind of area. And then the second group is the one I'm in, which the youngest one is in the middle of college and the oldest ones are like 25. And then the group
Mhm.
below us are like still in high school. So The oldest group was really upset when we were all born because they used to be like ballers at New Year. And then, like, so after we were all born, there were a bunch of us in our kind of section. So they didn't get as much money during that time and like less presents during Christmas and all that stuff. We have a lot of fun on that holiday. Some of us go to Buddhist temple that day or like that weekend whenever it falls. So we try to go there and volunteer and pray. Even though like most of us aren't really that religious, but it's kind of more of a thing in our family because our grandma is really active in the local temple. So we usually just go on like big holidays and stuff. We don't go every week.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing that we are really gonna miss this year is we all pull out like $100 in ones and we gamble. We go so hard gambling on New Year's, and this is like just our family thing. We do this for fun, where all of us, because there's so many of us, will gamble and play like blackjack, baccarat, and all that stuff. There's pictures of like us all crowded around the floor with like a big pot in the middle of like ones, and like we get so competitive with it, and it's the highlight of the year because of like food too and all that and just being together. So it kind of sucks that we can't do that in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of a big day, I think, in a lot of cultures. That's like the big holiday we celebrate for like my Vietnamese family. And it's really fun. It's one
Mm-hmm.
of my favorites. And I was really upset like the years I was away in college to come back home for that weekend since it's not like a holiday here in the US. Like we don't have off
Mm-hmm.
for it. So I was always really sad when I couldn't come home for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Like college kind of sucked because we missed out on some things. But anyway, no, that's really interesting that like that's the most important holiday in the Vietnamese culture because it is for the Japanese culture as well. It's really interesting. It must stem from like a religious thing, or
Hmm.
I have no idea. And it's also interesting, there are a lot of similarities too and differences,
Hmm.
like the money thing.
Yeah.
Getting the money from relatives and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That's really interesting. I don't know how that came about, at least in the Japanese New Year, like why that became a thing, but that's really interesting. And also, visiting the Buddhist temple, that's also really interesting. It's got to be, the money must be a religious thing too, somehow. I don't know, but it's just really interesting to see and hear about that. And it's a bummer that you're not going to be able to celebrate it the way that you're used to. And hopefully, or you can in 2022, fingers crossed.
Yeah, maybe we can just have a rain check and do it later in the year.
Yeah, that would be great. But anyway, that was really interesting to hear about. The next holiday that I'm gonna bring up briefly is called Setsubun, which is like this thing where you grab some soybeans and you throw some soybeans out of the house and you say Oni wa Soto, which means like Oni. A lot of you probably have heard this term before. It's like demon or evil spirit. And so you say evil spirits out. And then you say Fuku wa uchi. I think it means like you're bringing in like the good spirits or like the good fortune, the good luck and stuff like that. And so when we were living in Japan, because we could get the soybeans easily, it's kind of hard here. At least we haven't done it since we moved to the United States, but it's really hard to do that here because of the lack of being able to buy like dried soybeans, but they're so delicious. 10 out of 10 recommend. But we would do that. That's also, I think that's in early February we would do that. So it's just like another small, it's not even really a holiday. I guess it's more of like a tradition. And so you would just do that to get the bad stuff out and the good stuff in. So that was like a really fun one because there would be soybeans scattered around the floor and like we would have to go find all the soybeans and like try and eat them. And it was fun because we don't wear shoes in our house. So the floors were clean. Don't worry. We wouldn't do that if our floors were dirty. We would not eat them. But we would have to like race to find them. And then when we got a dog, we would have to get them before he could get them. So it was like really hard. um, but it was a lot of fun. That's a really fun one that I really like to participate in.
Yeah, I can just imagine you like being really young and then you're just throwing soybeans everywhere and having so much fun. But also, like, I can kind of understand why you don't do that here because, like, can you imagine not being you and then seeing your neighbor just like throwing soybeans around and like yelling the phrase that you said that's like demons out?
Yeah, they would probably think we're like insane. Yeah, maybe it's a good thing we don't do it here since we have neighbors close by. Yeah, they would probably think we're nuts. But yeah, yeah, we have not done it since we lived in Japan. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially with little kids. Yeah, it's just so fun. You know, throwing things and then picking them up and then yeah, it's great. The next holiday I wanted to talk about, it's called Hinamatsuri, which is Girls' Day, and it's just basically celebrating girls.
Woo.
Go girls, girl power. But basically, Hina Matsuri, it's also called Dolls Day. And so the reason that it's called that, my mom and I, we this was a long time ago in Japan, we got these Japanese dolls and it's a prince and a princess and then you set them up on these little tatami mats and you have to be very careful with them because I believe they're porcelain, so you have to wear gloves and you don't want to stain them and you put them on their little tatami mats. You set up like these really pretty folding paper doors behind them, you know, to make it very aesthetically pleasing. There's like fake flowers that you put next to them. And they're like, I'm trying to figure out what's the best thing to compare them to for size wise. I don't know. I mean, they're probably like the size of a Barbie doll, but they're sitting down and you can't move their arms or legs or anything or their heads. They're
Mm-hmm.
porcelain, so they're solid. They're not moving.
Mm-hmm.
And they're wearing this very traditional clothing, kimono, and there are lanterns that you can set up around it. And there's sometimes a music box that comes with it. We have one. There's like a fake little mochi statue plant thing that you can display next to it too because mochi is good fortune, so it's used in a lot of different holidays and traditions. Yeah, and like the prince carries like a sword. You know, it's just like very traditional clothing and attire. And that's like the basic one that we have. Some people go all out. You can get different dolls too, other than the prince and the princess. Like you can have tiers. Obviously, the prince and the princess would sit at the top tier, right? And then you would have like a tier below that. On the lower tiers would be like different foods, like fake foods, plants to make it aesthetically pleasing. And also, they have some servants too, because that's what it was like back in the day, I guess, in Japan. You know, like they had like the prince and princess, obviously they had servants. So you can buy those as well. We just decided not to because we didn't see, I mean, it's just like a lot to set up because it's enough with the prince and the princess. Like it takes a while. So we just decided not to do all of that. But it's quite beautiful when you see a full set. And it's just amazing how much detail there are in these things. It's probably pretty expensive too. I have no idea how much it was because my grandparents paid for it. They wanted me to have that for Girls' Day. But yeah, it's very pretty. Oh, and then a thing my mom would do, I don't know if this is traditional or not, but she would just cook my favorite meal
Aw,
on Girls' Day. So it was like a fun day. It made me feel special.
that's so cute. I think especially like cooking your favorite meal, that's really cute. I think
Hmm.
I'm kind of curious. You can link them down below what the dolls look like.
Yeah, I will definitely link them because I'm sure some people are going to be interested in what they look like. It's kind of hard to explain, but you can look up like the full tiers. There's some people that have like all of them, and it's a lot, but it's very pretty. But yeah, I will definitely like link the Wikipedia page and probably a photo of one. Lynn, do you want to go next?
Oh yeah, the one I wanted to mention, it's not like a huge important holiday for our family, not even all of us celebrate it, but it's Buddha's birthday. So I think it's like obviously a Buddhist holiday, but usually we just go to the temple for that one. So we go to a specifically Vietnamese temple and we're treated like royalty there because my grandma cooks for like all the monks and my uncle drives them all
Mm.
around whenever they need it. So we have so much good karma, it's not even funny. I've only gone a couple times. So when you go to temple, you pray in the morning, and a lot of people will sell things that day, like
Mm-hmm.
sell different kinds of foods like you would normally eat at home, but sometimes it's too annoying to cook like here because the ingredients are hard to find. We would also just eat some of the temple food, so it's all vegetarian things. There's meat replacements in Vietnamese food for some reason. And I think it's because there's quite a few monks, and also there's like certain days of the lunar calendar. A lot of Vietnamese people eat vegetarian once a month. So it's pretty common to have these specific meat substitutes. I think they're made from whey,
Mm.
and they're pretty good. Like sometimes I just eat them for fun. But yeah, I'm honestly not even sure about why, besides the fact that it's Buddha's birthday, like why we celebrate it. And I kind of wanted to mention that because I think it's pretty common in general, like not just for mixed people, but even for like diaspora of other cultures, that sometimes you just celebrate holidays because your family does it and they don't
Mm-hmm.
really explain why you're celebrating something. You just know that it's a holiday and you do stuff for it, I feel like, unless you go do your own research or they sit down and teach you about it. But some people just don't know, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's, especially when I was younger, I feel like that was how we celebrated a lot of holidays. It was just like, oh, we're just gonna do it because that's what we've always done and that's what our family has always done
Hmm.
before. So you would just do it and go along with it. But now that we're older, it's just like we know probably a little more, but I don't know a lot. But I don't know even if we do things how a lot of other people do them, which I guess it doesn't really matter because we're celebrating it the way we celebrate it.
Hmm.
But I'm really interested about like the meat substitutes. You were saying that it was made of whey. That's really interesting. Maybe you can like link it below or something in our description. I want to know like what it looks like, what it tastes like.
Yeah, I think I'll link them. It's called bijay or whatever. So like when you
Mm.
say the food and then jai, that means a vegetarian. So
Oh.
I don't actually know if it's made of whey. I kind of just said that on the spot, not gonna lie. But because I know it's not like soybeans, because we have tofu and there's like a word for tofu. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll link what that like meat substitute is below. I feel like the texture is similar to like the more firm tofus, but
Mm-hmm.
also not. You know, it's hard to explain.
Mm.
I'll link it below.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Now I'm really curious what the word for tofu is in Vietnamese because the word for tofu in Japanese is just tofu. So I'm like wondering what other countries call it?
Oh yeah, so it's douho. So it's pretty similar because I think they're all
Oh.
borrowed from way long ago. Because in Mandarin it's tofu.
Mm-hmm.
It's and then douho in Vietnamese. Japanese one is like the same, pretty similar, I believe, like linguistically. So
Yeah, that's really cool. Very interesting. Anyway, so the next holiday I wanted to talk about, it's called Golden Week. So this is legit like a whole week. But I don't really know. I'm gonna be real. I really don't know what goes into Golden Week. I just know that it's like a big deal in Japan and people have a week off and it's nice. But I never got a week off from school because I was going to an American school. So it didn't make a difference to me. That's probably why I didn't learn a lot about it. But I think like a lot of them have to do with like emperor's birthdays, stuff like that, and like a Memorial Day. But one of the days though within Golden Week that I wanted to talk about is Children's Day. It's on May 5th. And that's
hmm.
kind of similar to Girls' Day, but it's just like in general Children's Day. I think it used to be Boys' Day the longest time.
Hmm.
I'm not sure why it was changed or why Girls' Day was kept. I don't ask me. You gotta ask somebody else. But yeah, like from when I was a young age, we just called it like we just referred to it as like Boys' Day slash Children's Day. So I think it was in that transition period, or my family knew it as Boys' Day, but then like it changed while they were alive into Children's Day. I don't know. But anyway, we didn't really celebrate that to a great extent, but one thing a lot of people do, they would hang up these banners and they were like shaped like fish. I don't know if you've ever seen them before, Lynn, but I'll link a photo down below. It's like hard to describe them, but they're just like they're like these wind socks kind of that are shaped
Oh,
like fish and they're really cool. And that's just like what you hang up on Boys' Day slash Children's Day. They're really pretty.
yeah, it's those like the carp kites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are really cool. I like low-key want one because those honestly look dope as hell.
Yeah, I think koi no bori, so koi like koi fish. Yeah, they're carp. So yeah, they're really cool. I kind of want some of my own. A lot of people would hang up more than one, and they're just really fun. They're like different colors and stuff. Yeah, I think they're really awesome.
Those
Hmm.
honestly, like I've seen those in pictures. So I play this farm game called like Rilakkuma Farm, and it's all just it's like
Oh my gosh.
Rilakkuma characters. And they that's one of the decorations you can put up. It's like a rare decoration, and I have it, so I know exactly what you're talking about once you said that it was it was like that since it's technically a Japanese phone game that like got
Hmm.
translated into English. So I those are pretty cool. I think it would be cool to see those around in general.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they're really cool, very common for people to hang them up. So the next holiday, this will be the last of mine. Don't worry, I'll be done soon. But yeah, so this last thing, I don't know if people know about this or not, but it's called Obon or Bon. It's like a festival that's held in August, and it's basically just to honor the spirits of one's ancestors, as Wikipedia writes. Yeah, it's just like you're celebrating the dead. I never viewed it that way. I don't really recall of anybody mentioning anything about that to me as a kid, other than my mom explaining it to me, like, oh, this is why we do it. But it's not like we, at least my family, we never like visited family cemeteries or anything. Maybe you're supposed to, I'm not sure, but we didn't. But it's just a big party in like August/September. It's so fun. Obon Festival, like it's not just one festival that happens on one day. It's like multiple festivals across multiple towns and prefectures, like across Japan, really. And it's just a big celebration. And so the one that I went to, I'll just describe that. We lived in a community in kind of rural suburban Japan, and we would go to the community center, which was like this building next to a big field, and the big field was where we held our Oban festival, and it was like in the shape of a circle. So
Mhm.
there would be like a bunch of food vendors, toy vendors, like fun game vendors.
Mhm.
Like they would sell yakisoba in a plastic box that you could like buy and eat right there. Takoyaki, which is like octopus balls.
Oh,
Um,
I love
it just
takoyaki.
it's so good. But yeah, just like a bunch of like fun like street food, basically. You would just have these street food vendors.
Mhm.
Kakigori, which is like shaved ice. You would have that because it's in the middle of the summer and it's hot. Um, and there would be a lot of these games that you could play for the kids that, like you play them and you can like win a fish or something. Like you got to catch the fish in the pool that they like this little kiddie pool that they filled up with water. And
Mhm.
like you can catch this. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like this balloon on a like a rubber band string that you can hang on to and bounce on the palm of your hand. Like it's really fun. Kind of like a yo-yo, but not. And they would have like a bunch of prizes that the community would win, like raffles and stuff like that. It's just like a really fun time. And then the best part, in my opinion, was the dancing. There'd be traditional taiko players. Taiko is like this Japanese drum.
Mhm.
I'll link it. You can see it. They would play that, and a bunch of the old grandmas, or we call them bachans, obachan. They would start dancing in a circle, and then everyone would join in. It's just so much fun. It's just pure fun. I loved it so much growing up. I'm so glad I got to be a part of that. And that was just my community festival. There are like bigger festivals than this where they really like fireworks in Japan. And so they would sometimes set off fireworks over the water. It's just beautiful. I've been to other festivals like that, and it's amazing. They have lanterns everywhere, like, those traditional red long lanterns. They're just it's so pretty. It's amazing. It's probably one of my favorite holidays to celebrate because it's just like a lot of joy. Everyone can enjoy it, like it's amazing.
Yeah, that's really sweet actually, since it's like honoring the dead. I know we don't have an official holiday, but we actually get together and do like a family gathering for I think my great grandparents. where we
Mhm.
get together and we have to go to a private room and burn incense and pray and like offer food to them. So it's a little bit more serious. It's a little bit less of a party, but a reason
Mhm.
to get together, you know.
Mhm.
And another thing I meant to mention was how you said Golden Week is a week long thing and this one is multiple days. So I kind of wanted to
Mhm.
reiterate the fact that the Lunar New Year isn't just celebrated on one day in most Asian countries. That's like at least a week or 2 weeks long of a celebration too. Like everywhere's closed.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like it's a really big deal. And I think that's probably why we put more emphasis on that than like many of the other holidays is because it's normally such a big deal.
Yeah, that's really cool. I did not know that it was like a multiple day type of thing for Lunar New Year because our New Year is just like one day. But yeah, that's so cool. Oh, and there's one more thing, one last thing. I'm sorry, everyone. There's one last thing I want to mention. So, clothing wise, the traditional clothing that you would wear, I mean, you can wear whatever you want. You can wear Western clothing, but a lot of people in Japan, they wear this thing called a yukata, which is like, it's like a light cotton kimono. I don't know if a lot of people know this. They probably don't, but traditional kimonos, they're very heavy and
Oh
they're
yeah.
made of silk. They're very beautiful. They are not meant to be like worn while you're dancing out in the dirt field. um, so, and also like in the summertime, it's humid in Japan. It's hot. It can get very hot. So we wear this thing called a yukata, which is like a light cotton kimono. It's very light, very nice and breezy. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because maybe back in the day they did wear kimonos. I don't know, but like that would just I would be dying if I was wearing a kimono during the summertime in Japan. Like that's just way too hot. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I actually meant to ask you like what is the difference between those two because I've seen them and they looked, you know, because I'm a noob, I don't know. I thought they looked very similar, but I was like,
Hmm.
obviously they have different words for them. They have to be different clothing. So I that's cool that you kind of just like a kimono light.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. It's kimono, very light. Um, because maybe one day, Lynn, you and I will like go to Japan and we'll just do like a Asia tour or something. I don't know. But you'll probably get to try on a kimono like a legit one and you'll see how thick it is. It's quite thick. And like the ones back in the day, like I was mentioning how on the girls' day there we set up these prince and princesses, they would wear like 12 layers of kimonos each day.
Wow.
It's crazy. At least it wasn't crazy back then, but it's crazy to me now because that seems hot. Um, but maybe during the wintertime, you're probably really comfortable. But yeah, no, it's you. The yukata is just a yeah, like you said, kimono light. It's very nice, very thin, breathable.
Yeah, we've been talking about taking a Japan trip for like almost 2 years now, taking one together. I guess I'll go ahead and talk about the
Hmm.
last holiday that we celebrate. So it's called the Mid Autumn Festival. In English, it's called the Mid Autumn Festival. I know it's celebrated by quite a few other cultures. So it's usually between mid September and mid October. And it's usually like harvest type of festival. And we call it like Tetchumtu. So we eat like mooncake and stuff. We don't do that much for
Mm.
this holiday, but since like nowadays Costco started selling mooncakes like for pretty cheap, like bro, we go so hard to eat mooncakes the past couple years. And this is the one we actually have lanterns on this festival. I have a really fond memory of there's a big Vietnamese center in this area and
Hmm.
usually during these holidays they're very packed. But I have a fond memory of this holiday when I was like I want to say, 12 and because you light lanterns on this one, they had like a little march for the children to like hold lit lanterns and you just walked around the parking lot of this area like all in a line and it was really cute. I remember being terrified that I would drop it and catch my own lantern on fire, so I was very focused on my own lantern. But but it's very cute, it's very fun. I love eating mooncakes. during that time. My favorite is lotus seed and mung bean with the salted egg yolk inside. That one's very
Oh,
good. We don't actually do that much for this one. So, I mean, I just like to eat. I think that's a big point of a lot of the holidays is eating.
yeah, that's so true. I think a lot of Asian countries, the food is so important to the holidays and the traditions because there's a lot of meaning behind it.
Hmm.
And not to say that there isn't in America, but it's just like, well, a lot of Asian countries have a longer history than America does. So, I mean, that makes sense. There's like a lot more to work with history-wise to like build up traditions and stuff like that and meaning. Yeah, that's really interesting. I like that you could carry around your own lantern. That's so cute.
I was so scared though. Yeah, I think it has to go back to like what you were saying, like you eat mochi, like good fortune and stuff, and like there's symbolism behind like getting the money and all those things.
Hmm.
And I think that's like you said, it's just after like hundreds of years of tradition that those things kind of build up. I guess since we're done with, our unique holidays, let's talk about our American holidays. Do you celebrate any of the commercialized holidays, if you will?
Commercialized holidays. I mean, the ones, I mean, let me think. Easter, but not the religious way. I mean, we would celebrate it and like as a kid, I would have to find the eggs on
Hmm.
the egg hunt. I didn't really grow up very religious, so it wasn't like we would go to church. So not really Easter. I'm trying to think. Memorial Day. My dad and I would sometimes we would go to the local cemetery by where we live for veterans. So we would go there and pay our respects because my dad's he's a veteran, so it's a big part for
Right.
us. And I completely understand why he and I do that. It's like I think
Hmm.
for us especially, it's just really important to pay our respects because we come from like such a heavy like a direct military background. So that's probably a kind of important holiday for us, if you can call it a holiday. I guess it is. See, Labor Day, not really. The Veterans Day, yeah, it's just like another holiday. Pay our respects, say thank you to the people that we know, because we know a lot of people who are in the military and who are
Hmm.
veterans. That's a big one in our house.
Hmm.
And then let's see, Thanksgiving and Christmas, very important to us. Thanksgiving because it's just really important on both sides of the family to say thanks and to be thankful for everything that has happened to you
Hmm.
this year. And then Christmas, that's really important. So, the one thing I want to mention about Christmas, we kind of mostly celebrate it on Christmas Eve, which is, I know it's probably odd, but that's just like how my dad's family always celebrated it. So
Hmm.
they would like open all the presents on Christmas Eve and then Santa would come Christmas Day, but like most of it was celebrated on Christmas Eve and then Christmas Day we would just like all relax and just enjoy
Hmm.
our company with each other. I know it's a lot different than probably most Americans, but yeah, that's just how we celebrated it.
Yeah, I think we're pretty similar. I actually went to religious schools until my sophomore year of high school. So, like, sophomore year is when I started going to public school. So, but we're not religious, really. So that was really weird. We did the same thing. We didn't really celebrate Easter besides the Easter bunny would come.
Hmm.
We do 4th of July just like as an excuse to get together because we all get off work and just we like to light fireworks. We don't really do anything like really specific about it though. Thanksgiving, I used to just go to one of my aunt's houses on my dad's side because she would cook every year, but she recently, in the past couple years, moved away from where we were, so we don't get to go over there anymore. But this year, we actually cooked our own Thanksgiving food for the first time in my life, which was kind of cool. It was pretty good. I really like the canned cranberry sauce for some reason. Like, that's specifically my favorite food. The canned jellied one,
Ooh.
not even the one with the actual berries, just like the jellied one with all the sugar. That's my favorite one, and I don't know why. Christmas, we celebrate Christmas kind of like non religiously, like Santa would come and all that stuff. I actually have a funny story of like how I found out Santa wasn't real. So after my parents separated, I in our house Santa would leave like a message to us, like on a piece of paper, like saying thank you for the food, like the cookies and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So what happened was my dad was always the one that wrote the message, but he would, make it different from his regular handwriting because he writes like in all capital letters normally. So he would change it to like writing with lowercase letters and like with his non-dominant hand.
Hmm.
So like we couldn't tell it was him. But then
Hmm.
after my parents separated, my mom tried to leave a note, and so like there's kind of a meme about this, but my mom has very stereotypical Vietnamese person handwriting, like because handwriting for some reason is really important, and all of their handwriting literally looks the same. Like all of my aunt's handwriting literally looks exactly the same. And I knew this was my mom's handwriting. So I looked at this note and I was like, that's weird. Santa has my mom's handwriting. So
Oh
so
my
that's how I
God.
found out that Santa was like my parents, was because like my mom tried to leave the note to keep that thing going, but I figured out it was my mom.
Oh my God. That I I feel like she had no choice though. That's so funny though. Oh my gosh. I can't believe like that's how you found out. Wait, how old were you?
Oh, I don't know. I had been like 8 maybe. So like it was kind of getting to the age where people start figuring it out, I think. Maybe it was a little bit young, but it was honestly it was so funny. Like now thinking back on it, it's hilarious. Like that's how I found out. Like I didn't find out from my friends or like, put two and two together. This is my mom's handwriting.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love that. I wish I had a funny story like that. I don't even remember how that happened for me.
I'm glad that we kind of had a chance to talk about this because we totally forgot to wish everyone happy holidays last week when
Hmm.
when actually like Christmas was. We thought this would be a fun little topic to do in between Christmas and New Year's. So hopefully people learn something or, identify with the fact that we celebrate a pretty diverse amount of holidays. Sounds like Japan really just likes to have a lot of festivals.
Oh, it's always fun. There's like a bunch I haven't even mentioned that I don't even remember because there are just so many. But yeah, there are a lot of holidays actually.
I mean, hopefully we can do our Japan trip sometime after the pandemic's over, since we're kind of both out of school now. Just want to thank everyone for listening, and you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and we post every Wednesday. So, see you guys.
Bye.